Hey, welcome. Thanks for checking out my channel and for checking out this video. I'm Tom Neiman and you're watching Paint and Draw with Tom. Today we are at Smithfield Beach in the beautiful Pocono Mountain area, more specifically in the Delaware Water Gap Recreation Area, just up a ways from Shawnee on the Delaware on the Pennsylvania side off of River Road. This is a beautiful area with multiple boat launches, and I'm actually sitting at an older portion of the park with a boat launch that seems like it hasn't been used in a while. And I'm painting in acrylic paints on a canvas board that measures 4 inches by 6 inches using my handheld easel, working with acrylic paints. So this is the very same kit, by the way, that we'll give to beginner plein air painters that are interested in working in the smaller format that come out on my plein air adventure workshops here in the Pocono Mountains. And we'll provide a lot more detail about the kit that's provided for beginners that wish to use this miniature format in about at the 15-minute mark of this video. Today's painting is a beautiful scene, as you can see, and when observing a landscape like Smithfield Beach, your eye is immediately drawn to the massive contrast between the flat, reflective surface of the Delaware River and the steep, heavily forested ridges rising beside it. For a beginner, the trap often is trying to find ways to paint every single leaf on those hills. Experienced landscape artists know that capturing the broad values, the relationship of light to shadow areas or lights and darks, is what actually gives the mountain its weight. And you can see here I'm struggling a little bit trying to frame the scene and sight it using my hands. What I've noticed as a result of trying to do this is that I have the opportunity to use Edgar Payne's design stems, and the dominant design stem that I observe that's available within this scene is the radiating line design stem, along with some other minor applications of other design stems as well, but that's the primary design stem we'll be using today to help build believable definition and design into this painting. As you can see, I'm struggling with the sunlight, painting while viewing the scene with the sun relatively low in the sky, creating a reflection that's bouncing off of the water directly into my face is not only making it challenging to film this point of view video, but it's also making it difficult for me to see and taxing my energy a little bit. So what I've done is I've backed up off the main part of the boat launch and the shore of the Delaware River here into a shaded area in an effort to help use the shade of a tree to help me a little bit with my efforts. And as always will be the case when painting with an opaque or semi-opaque medium like acrylic paint, oil paints, pastels, and so forth, I'm starting by blocking in my darkest shadow shapes. And as you saw, that's shortly after toning a good portion of my canvas, leaving just the top part of the canvas white, hoping that the lighter color of the white finished canvas will amplify the efforts to ensure that the sky plane and the shapes used to build the sky plane remain the lightest value within the scene. Something behind me. As I dig in and begin to make progress with this painting, I'm noticing that there's some really interesting light effects. On the far side of the riverbank, you'll notice that the sun is reflecting and creating a warm glow, which appears to be close to the banks on the opposite side of the Delaware River. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to progress far enough along in this painting to capture that before the light changes too significantly. So we'll look to get the bulk of this painting done within about 20 to 30 minutes. It's one of the advantages associated with doing these quick sketches. We use a little less paint, and also you can get further along with the painting in less time. Oftentimes you can complete a sketch like this within 20 to 40 minutes, whereas if I were to be painting on a larger canvas or surface, let's say 20 by 30, I might take closer to an hour and a half to 2 hours to block in a scene like this and have it progress to the point where it's recognizable. And just a quick reminder, if you're interested in learning more about the supplies that I offer to beginner plein air artists during my plein air adventure workshops here in the Pocono Mountains, stick around until about the 15-minute mark, and I'll provide you a pretty comprehensive overview of the kit that I will offer plein air artists that are interested in using these miniature formats. If you're a more experienced or advanced plein air artist and you're just looking for me to serve as your guide during our plein air adventures and you have your own equipment, that's fine too. I'm just looking for a convenient, easy way to make the wonderful experience of plein air painting a little bit more accessible for those that are new to the process. So as you can see, I've made a couple of attempts at refining the actual shape that's used for the sky, and I'll come back to it a couple times because inevitably there will be some clouds that roll by here. In the early morning on the river, you have an extraordinarily dynamic set of elements that typically will happen all throughout the year, but particularly in spring and summer. You'll see oftentimes mist rise off of the river early in the morning. It'll create a foggy, kind of mystical set of effects, and oftentimes will help with the aerial perspective. It'll push the mountains back. It seems very atmospheric. And then as the sun rises, that will typically disperse. And that's kind of the set of circumstances that we're in right now, where the sky is getting bluer and as the sun rises. And then once it gets about midway up the sky, you'll typically, on a clear day like this that starts out clear, you'll see clouds start rolling across the sky plane. So I'm kind of, the experience that I have painting in this setting is helping me for sure. And that speaks to the advantage of being really familiar with the environment you're painting in, and even painting the same scene multiple times can be really, really helpful. Just refining some of the shapes suggesting that mountain range. I'm also looking to break that line. We don't want it to be a sharp line that's used to depict the tops of the mountain range, particularly often to the distance, where those lines that create the shapes are radiating from. They are further off into the distance, so they will diffuse, and that will help if we break those lines depicting the top of the mountain range. That will help create the illusion of depth and also three-dimensionality amongst those mountains. we've made some pretty good progress here, and there's a little ways to go, probably another 15 minutes or so before we wrap up this painting. We're going to shift gears briefly here, and I'll give you a brief introduction into my beginner handheld easel-based plein air painting kit that I'll give you if you come along with me on my plein air adventures here in the Poconos. So I just want to give you a quick overview of the equipment that we'll provide for individuals that join us out in the field with our beginner-oriented plein air painting workshop. We've created a kit that makes it nice and easy to get started. The very same kit that I used for today's session, which includes this pencil tin and a 4x6-inch canvas board that's affixed with a magnetic sheet that's cut to size. And this will stick to any metal object, including your refrigerator or filing cabinets, but it does an especially nice job within this tin setup to keep your canvas steady if it's windy, if you're on shaky ground or a dock or what have you, or if you're just traveling through the woods. It keeps it nice and secure. And when you're done with your painting, you can put it in the deeper part of this tray, which normally would serve, as you'll see throughout this video, as the area with which we'll use for our palette. You can put your finished painting in there, shut your tin, and put it in your bag or your pocket, and it'll be pretty secure, pretty protected. So if you're on a long hike or a long car ride with a lot of luggage, you don't need to worry about your painting being damaged. So you get to head on home with a nice souvenir if you come out here to the Poconos and paint with me. Here's what the kit will look like. I'll pull this into view. You'll have a nice little bag. We do have a little bit of branding there. We're working on refining that. You get your little water bottle. You'll have a sheet of shop towel, which we'll use for two purposes: to line the palette within your handheld easel, and also it's a nice thing to have so you can wipe off your brushes. We'll provide you with your own tin, with your own magnetic 4x6 canvas, and in addition to that, we'll give you this inexpensive set of brushes. So if you happen to be on the go and last minute make plans to come out and paint with me, that's not a problem. We can equip you with this very basic set and you'll be on your way. If you're a beginner and you're a little intimidated by the wide array of wonderful equipment that's available, I mean, you could spend a small fortune acquiring equipment, and nearly all of it is excellent. If you take the time to shop for it, you'll find some really great plein air equipment that'll meet just about any need that you have in mind. But if you're a beginner, sometimes learning to paint on plein air, outdoors in nature, is the appropriate first step before you make those big investments. And this is a nice way to get that experience under your belt, learn a little bit about your preferences, which we can discuss while we're out on the trail painting together if you're interested. But I'll provide this for you to help you get started. So now we're back, and hopefully you found that brief overview of the Pocono Plein Air Painter Beginner Paint Kit helpful and insightful. If you wish to join me on a plein air adventure out here in the Poconos, take a look at the links provided in the notes for this video. You can book through AirBnb Experience. You don't need to be staying at an Airbnb property in order to take advantage of this opportunity. You could just register for the workshop. We could meet up, take a brief hike, and enjoy some time painting in a scene like this one if you wish. So I have all the basic shapes laid in, and I even have some of the colors refined to the point where I'm pretty happy with where we're at. I just took some time to accentuate some of the darkest shadow patterns which are under the tree canopies near the riverbanks on the other side of the river. And now I'm mixing up some greens. I'm being careful to ensure that they're not too intense. That's a common mistake that we'll make when painting on plein air, because we get so attracted to the light reflecting off of the trees in those highlight areas. We could be a little heavy-handed at times. But what I'm looking to do here is just create some greenish kind of tints and a couple of variations of it to create the illusion of detail amongst those trees. And we'll come back through later on and maybe even do so a little bit right now to suggest some of those highlights too. And we'll follow the same approach with the grasses along the shore like we're doing right now. And this will help build upon the effort to enhance the illusion of three-dimensionality, because aerial perspective is in use here. In those areas that we want to recede back into the distance, we'll use more of a bluish tint. In those areas that we want to bring forward, we'll use warmer colors like yellow and red to enhance those areas in the foreground. Generally speaking too, those areas that recede off into the distance will be a little lighter, less saturated, a little grayish. Those areas in the foreground that are in shadow will be a more intense dark and just generally more saturated colors like you saw along the left-hand side of this image in the grassy areas. I know it's difficult to see at times, and that's because the sunlight is so intense and it's right in our faces. But as you'll see at the end, the painting itself is going to come out pretty well. It's difficult at this point in time, so I'll try to narrate when it seems like it might be helpful to help you understand what's going on. And this is the same type of coaching that I can give painters of all experience levels, but particularly those that are new to plein air painting when we're out in the field together during our workshop. I spent quite a bit of time refining some of the shapes of the reflections within the water. Now I'm going to enhance some of those cloud shapes because, like I mentioned before, those clouds have rolled in, and we're mixing up some white with some ultramarine blue and a little bit of cadmium red and yellow ochre to help create some color variations amongst the clouds. And we're going to try and be careful not to overdo it. We want to make sure that there's just some subtle shifts in color and temperature amongst the clouds. And we don't want the cloud shapes to overtake the sky. We want some of that blue to still be there because, that helps create a little bit more of a realistic image. We'll bring some of those warmer colors down into the reflections because we do see them, particularly off in the distance. I kind of like where I'm at right now, so I'm not going to mess with those too much, but I'll bring some of the warmer, lighter colors into the sky reflections in the foreground. And we'll wrap up here in just a few moments. Hopefully you enjoyed our time together. Once again, if you're interested in painting with me in the field, check out the links in the video notes. Thanks for watching. Have a great day and stay well.